Gianluca Conte, 50 years later on Italian cooking. William Hovey Smith, 2024. This is Gianluca Conte, and you can cook Italian. This is our international broadcast, and today we have studio audiences in Stockholm, in London, Madrid, and Johannesburg. And we are going to teach you that you, wherever you live, can cook Italian food. We are in the kitchen of the late author and cook William Hovey Smith in Sandersville, Georgia. The middle of nowhere, really. But the point is, we came here with nothing. We're going to use his tools. We're going to use his kitchen. We're going to use his game. And we are going to cook spaghetti and meatballs. And this is particularly special because this is the 50th anniversary of my first book. Yes, Italian American, and this is a Queen City Prince book. I'll tell you more about that later. But what we did is we came and we went locally. And we bought what we could. This is Italian. Spaghetti, good olive oil, and we're going to cook with wild game meat, especially venison and wild hog. Now, Smith shot these years ago, and we thought them out, and we cooked them, and we processed them in a video that we posted yesterday. Now, today, we're actually going to make the spaghetti and meatballs. And you in the audience out there, wherever you are, will be able to direct questions to me, and I'll receive them, and we will see if we can answer some as we cook. Now, in the recipe book, it tells you specific amounts to cook. But this is wild game, guys. If you process any of it, you're going to process all of it. And whatever you got, you got. So we're going to cook. And right now, we're going to get around to it. Here's what we have for the final assembly of our dish. We have our spaghetti. I'm not going to cook all of this. I'm going to cook about half of it. And I've got water on the stove boiling. So this will go over here for a second. Then we have our jarred homemade tomato sauce here. This is not a marinara sauce. In fact, we created something a little new, maybe. We're calling this Earth Day tomato sauce. The reason being that this is made of a variety of tomatoes, including grape tomatoes, as well as some heirloom varieties, which I'd never seen before, but used anyway. And these would not shed their skins. So what we did is we put them in that grinder you saw a few minutes ago, and we ground them up. And so we have skins ground in the tomato sauce, which gives it body and gives it taste. What else is in the sauce is salt, pepper, onions, garlic, and oregano. A typical tomato sauce kind of thing. And a quarter stick of butter. Now I find this butter does wonders to sort of take the bite and edge off a typical marinara sauce. I don't like this straight marinara sauce on pasta. I do like it on eggplant parmesan, but not on pasta. This does much better on pasta than the marinara sauce. All right. So this will be warmed up in due time. Very well. Now, about our meat here. Okay, come on. Well, we have wild pork, as I mentioned, and we have venison, as mentioned, and we also have bell peppers. We have jalapeno peppers. We have some cheese in here, some real Italian cheese, and some coarse pepper, bang, 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 in here, all through the grinder. Now what we're going to add are breadcrumbs that have been soaked. This is Italian bread, 3 days old. Now we're going to take a cloth and press the milk out of it and add and mix these solids to the meatballs. The density of meatballs depends very much on the amount of moisture, and if a meatball is too moist, it will not work very well. So let's see if we can do this. We want to retain our solids and press out our liquids. Old t-shirt, if you're wondering. We'll get as much of the liquid out as possible. Don't want the meatballs to get too soggy. Because we're going to drop these in hot oil. And if you have a lot of moisture floating around, you're going to get a near explosion. Use this bowl. Yes, because it's a better mixing bowl. And you'll notice there's no water or moisture or blood out of this mix. It's a very dry mix. If you get it too soupy, you can't form meatballs with it. So now we take our material here. And we proceed to mix it with the rest of our meat. And it sounds like our water on the stove is actually starting to boil a little bit. Now about this meat. This is wild game meat. It has been frozen for well over a year at least. And wild game can contain some real nasties. So two things you want to do. One is you do not want to touch wild game meat bleeding. Either you or it. I have no sores on my hands. I have no cuts on my hands. And being frozen for a year will likely have killed any nasties in here. But that is not guaranteed. Nothing ever is in this world. If you were dealing with fresh meat and trying to make sausage out of it right now, yeah, you'd need to wear gloves. You really would, without a doubt. Here, you could probably get away with it like I'm doing. But don't count on it. Okay. Now that is well mixed. And it is smelling good. Nice, fresh, sweet smell. No gamey taste. None. Properly prepared meat from young animals will not smell like a dead horse. No. Okay. So we're getting this done. The next thing we're going to do is make up the meatballs. And to do that, we roll them in breadcrumbs. And so I have breadcrumbs here, which I made also yesterday. And I just want to sieve the worst of the coarse particles out of them. Looks like I'm going to have more meat than breadcrumbs. Alright, so we'll get some meat crumbed and some without. I moistened my hands a little bit, so we're going to roll out the meatballs. And you want one about the size of a golf ball. And then roll them around in the breadcrumbs a little bit, and you're done. That's it. So as you can see, there. Needed many more breadcrumbs. Well, we'll just have some meatballs without breadcrumbs, that's all. We'll have questions from the audience later. But let me start with one. Why don't I sound Italian? Well, truth is, almost no one sounds what many people think is Italian. And this goes way back to the Godfather movie with Marlon Brando. And he took on an accent that was never heard ever except in the movies. Maybe somebody somewhere spoke like that, but I never heard it, not in my life, and certainly not in North Carolina, nor even when I went to Italy, except when someone was trying to imitate a voice from The Godfather. And so, if you go to Italy, you will hear different accents from different people. Yes, whether they come from Rome or whether they come from Sicily or Milano, yeah, you'll hear different accents. So, don't worry about that. I don't sound like Marlon Brando. Only Marlon Brando sounded like Marlon Brando. We have a question. And that question is, how many books have you done? Well, that was my first one. Yeah, it was. And it depends on very much how you count them. Because we now have the traditional hardcover books. We have softcover books. We have audio books. We have e-books. And now we have internal chip books. And those go directly up here in your implanted memory chip. And what they let you do is to review the book, and then you can transfer the recipes you like to your brain and retain them and remove the rest. So that's a new wrinkle in the art. Internal memory storage is the newest thing in publication. And is it a book? Well, yeah, it has book content, all right. And a lot of people like video, and so it is a video book. Yes, written content, visual content, oral content, the whole 9 yards, all up in your memory. as long as you wish to retain it. And so now we have 3, 6, 9 meatballs, and we've used up all of our breading. Well, no problem. We just continue to make meatballs. Now, another question. Helsinki, I believe. Now that is a tough one. Hay is asking, why did I not have a recipe for pizza in my first book? Now I did do a later book all about pizzas, but why didn't I have a recipe in the first one? Well, there are pizzas and there are pizzas and there are pizzas and there are pizzas, depending on where in the world you go. And all claim a degree of authenticity, and all are authentic to some degree. Now, what does authentic mean? In the analysis, not very much. Because the pizza, as we know it today, already had passed through many hands by the time the first pizza was made, supposedly in the Naples area. Although the Sicilians will dispute that, by the way. The bread for the pizza is obviously a derivation of the Arabic flatbreads made in the Middle East forever. And that is the base of the pizza. Now, the tomato part of the pizza did not come in until, obviously, Columbus discovered the New World, and later. So the 1400s and 1500s. Okay. And the peppers, the American peppers, typically used on pizzas, the chili peppers and many other varieties, like the jalapenos, yeah, those hadn't arrived either. So, then we are left with who combined what when. Well, that's lost in history, quite frankly. The Sicilians said they did. And they did it during the Spanish occupation of the island of Sicily. And that is where first the tomato and the potato, and also a little hand drum, boom, 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 came in from the New World. It has been part of Sicilian culture ever since. And they say they did it. Don't know exactly who, but they say they did it. They took the Arabic flatbread, which was already in their culture. They put tomato sauce on it, and they put sausage and meats and fish and other things on it too. So, now that's the story of the Neapolitan pizza. Now that's the pizza I grew up with. My daddy owned 4 restaurants in Charlotte, North Carolina, one of which was an out-and-out pizzeria. So all my life I had Neapolitan-style pizzas. And elsewhere in the United States and elsewhere in the world, when Sicilians and Italians immigrated, they took their favorite dishes with them, and that ultimately included pizza. But they could not find all the ingredients, or the traditional ones. And so they adapted and changed. And ultimately you evolve things like the deep dish pizza in Detroit. Yes. You evolve the slice pizza in New York. Yes. You evolve vegetarian pizzas on the West Coast. Yes. You evolved fruit-covered pizzas. Yes. and any other varieties that you can think of. Are these authentic? Yes. To their region and to their place and to their time. And when you go to Naples and you order pizza, what you're going to get is you're going to get a piece of flatbread, and it's going to be covered with tomato sauce, and it's going to have some cheese on it, and it's probably going to have some pepperoni on it as a rule, but it could have other things, and also some extra peppers, if you want, and Parmesan maybe, and that's it. No great deep dish, no layers and layers of different sausages or other meats, no 16 choices of ingredients. Well, maybe you could request some olives if you like them. They'd certainly have those on your pizzas. But it's all authentic and it's all good. It pays to go back and keep the old traditions alive. We don't want to lose the original concept. We don't want to lose the original idea. And don't complain if you go to Naples that you can buy a better pizza than that in any store in North America, and you probably can, for your taste. But what he has is authentic, it's Italian, it's well made, well served. Eat it and shut your mouth. No, good advice. Okay, next question. Yeah, okay. Another thing not included in that book, calzones. The favored little dessert. It's a very almost paper thin crust, and it has a cream sweet filling. And why did I not have one in my book? Because I've never made one successfully, that's why. Not to that stage. Calzones are a work of art. They are. To get that crust so thin, evenly cooked all the way around, properly filled. It looks simple. Try it sometimes if you think it be simple, and see how you turn out. And that's why I did not have it in that book, because I had never done it. Question over there. Okay. The question is, how did I get started doing these videos? Well, it was a fun thing to do. And in grammar school, and in middle school, and in high school, I was the Italian guy. In Charlotte, North Carolina, there was one other Italian boy about my age, and his father was also a restaurant owner. And we hung around together, but we were the only two. We went to Catholic school. And I had two ways to make out and survive. I was a stranger in a strange land. We Italians like to be around our folks, and there were none. Just me and my family, and he and his family. So, you have to do two things to survive if you're in a minority. One, be physically strong. I became physically strong, but I certainly wasn't a boy. But I became funny. I became the funny guy in class. I became the jokester. And that way, I could get people to, if not like, at least tolerate me. This was a culture in that day and time that was not very tolerant of outsiders of any sort. But we got through it. And we formed a little group in high school. And I called myself Queen City Prince. And we did raps, yeah. And we put some of these up on YouTube, ultimately. Well, actually TikTok and YouTube. And they started to take off. Well, then we tried comedy. And those did even better. They did. And, well, in some of our comedy skits, we put in cooking, Italian cooking. And I didn't know cooking worth beans. Yes, my dad owned a restaurant, and I'd been there forever, but I didn't know how to cook. But I tried. So oftentimes on those early recipes, that was the first time I had ever cooked that meal. Yeah, we did. And we made fun of it and at it and with it and blah, 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 blah. And guess what? They liked it. Yeah! I started getting hits. Thousands of hits on my videos. Wow! Well, maybe this is something. Well, I talked to my dad, and my dad said, well, ultimately, if you're going to show cooking, son, do it right. And if you need help, I'll help you. But whatever you say, get it right. Well, he was right. Because some of the stuff I cooked was absolutely terrible in those videos. And I knew it. So I took his advice, and Mom helped too. But I could not do the videos with them in the house standing over the top of me. I had to run them out of the house to do the videos, and I did, and they begrudgingly cooperated. And so we got the videos out there, and that's how we got started. And they kept catching on and catching on and catching on. Now these videos were outrageous. They really were. Now I've toned things down considerably since then. Life happens, you know. And so now we're more after putting out fun, informative things rather than shock content, which was what I was after first and what got me all the early views. I think we have one coming from Singapore. Pasta. Okay. There are pastas and there are pastas, and I can make my own pastas, as can many others. Would I advise the average person to attempt to make pasta? Well, if you want to, you certainly can. But beware, you will probably have some early failures. Now, there are old grandmamas who have made pasta, and they make it completely by hand. They don't use a machine. They roll it out by hand. They do it perfectly every time, and they make a better pasta than I do. Yes, I can make a pasta, and I can make a pasta rapidly, and I can make a pasta slowly, and I can make a good pasta, but they make a better one because they have done it thousands and thousands and thousands of times. Okay, Johannesburg. What is the future of cooking? Even when I was a boy, you could see the onset of pre-prepared meals. And of course I ate them too. When I was in college and away from home and When I moved to California, yeah, I admit it, I did it, I ate some. But yeah, nowadays, we're getting to the point that no one knows how to cook nearly as much as they used to. Now, in the generation before me, gals in particular were taught how to cook. They had home ec in school, in high school. Yeah, they did. And many of the guys, particularly in the South, knew how to cook. Certainly barbecue. There was hardly a guy who could call himself a guy in the South that did not know how to do something with barbecue. That is, run a barbecue pit in North Carolina. I mean, he could put a whole hog on that pit and cook it, and many did. And that was sort of a rite of passage for guys I grew up with. Yeah, they knew how to do barbecue. They did that. And they had different kinds of barbecues. They had barbecue with white sauce. They had barbecue in the German style. Or they had barbecue with tomato sauce. They had barbecue in the German style. And especially in North Carolina, they served it with a vinegar sauce, which I never really thought much of, but they did. And like when you go to Italy, though, don't you tell them that. And it was good barbecue. Now, the only barbecue that was worth talking about in the Southeast was pork barbecue, not beef. Occasionally, maybe somebody would do a beef or a venison or something, but almost always pork. And if you were invited to a barbecue, this was not a grilling of beef burgers on the outside of the house. That's not a barbecue, that's a grilling. For barbecue, you go and you went and you got pork and you got it on a pit and you ate it and you enjoyed it very much, and you typically had coleslaw with it, you had a potato salad with it, you had iced tea, sweet iced tea. Well, yeah, I could drink it, but I don't know that I liked it that much. You almost had to survive. But yeah, that's how I sort of evolved in cooking. Then as I grew older, I took the cooking a bit more seriously. I actually spent serious time in Italy and Istia, which is a little island off the coast of Naples, where my dad was brought up. And I have a house there now, and we try to go over there and stay some every summer when the kids are out. Okay. Looks like Hong Kong. The question is, do you see problems with processed food? Yes. We now live in an age where you can subsist off wafers and paste and other stuffs. And this all started, well, about the same time I wrote that book, as a matter of fact, that it really started to get going. In fact, that wild animals and domestic animals were so expensive to produce that you wanted to extract every bit of nutrition out of them. And the best way to do that is to not serve it like traditional steaks and roast and stuff, but to process it into some sort of edible synthetic, semi-synthetic material. And this all got started with an outfit called Universal Galactic Incorporated Unlimited. And the motto of Universal Galactic was to sell everything to everybody all the time. And what they did was to go and they would buy everybody up in a given field, and then they would select the products they wanted to make and could make and make the best profit on. And then they would shut everybody else down and offer only those products. So instead of having 20 tomato sauces on the shelf, you'd have 3. Boom. Okay, it was cheap. They were good. They were made throughout the world. You could get the same tomato sauce every time, any place. But at a cost of productivity, but at a cost of inventiveness of the general population. And that's why I'm teaching you how to make your own. And at a loss, a great cultural loss. All the small makers, all the small cheese makers, they're gone. Almost none left now. The big corporations produce this stuff out. And they call it whatever they want to call it, and they sell it for whatever they want to sell it for. And we're stuck with it. But there's still time, there's still some people out there. And you can still buy some authentic stuff. So you can cook Italian and get as much of the authentic stuff as you can get whilst you can get it. Because unfortunately it will probably not be around forever. Universal Galactic started with a product named GLOP, G-L-O-P. And it was advertised as being a non-nutritive, made from the best of petroleum, coal tar, and agricultural waste byproducts. And they had problems with it, and it really didn't get the ground. Minor things like people's eyeballs would fall out, and the skin would fluff, and the teeth would drop off on the ground, and this sort of stuff. So they got their act together, and they decided that, well, they had to make nutritious products that would actually pass federal inspection and regulations, and they did. And they produced these things in mass and in great quantities. Form them up in any shape you want to see, flavor them, color them, blah, 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 blah. They're not as deadly as they once were, baby. But, yeah, these are out there too now. And, yeah, things that look like food, smell like food, maybe even taste like food. But do they do the body any real good? Well, now that is the question. Might not kill you off instantly, but do they do the body any real good? What I am out for is to show, one, yeah, you take care of yourself physically. You eat good food, yes. You prepare yourself, yes. Made from good ingredients, yes. And you'll probably have a long, productive life. Simple. All right. Now, we can get down to some cooking. We're going to be frying in this electric frying pan. Dog hair. Dog hair. All right. I'm going to put a generous amount of oil in here. All right. This is not going to cook these meatballs. All we want to do here is just brown them on the sides. Now the temptation most people have is to crowd the pan, and you don't want to do that. There we go, we got them started. But you want to allow enough room that you can actually move them. I'm finishing up the last ones here. What you want to make sure before you take them up, these are actually firm enough to handle. These seem to be getting there. That one's a little bit fragile yet. It's a little bit bigger. That's why you will keep your meatballs small if you're going to feed them this way. If you bake them in the oven, yeah, you could do it larger. And most larger meatballs are oven baked rather than fried. But the frying does give a good taste to the meatballs, particularly when you do it in good olive oil. I've thinned the tomato sauce, and we're going to put the meatballs in it and then let them finish cooking in that, which would be about 10 minutes. Now I have also going to get the water for the pasta up, and we will simultaneously cook some pasta. In short, our spaghetti. Molisana is what we're going to be cooking. Don't know it particularly, but that's what we're going to use. I'm adding salt to the pasta water, but we're not adding any oil. And the reason, if you add oil or butter, that will coat the strands of pasta and it will not absorb your sauce. And that's what you want to happen. And these are breaded meatballs. I'm going to have to dilute that a bit. And those need to be in boiling water for about 10 minutes. And that's about the right boil for pasta. Okay. That is enough. That's about half. That gives a good serving left over. We're getting very close to the end now. Spaghetti is drained. Our meatballs. And finally, our Earth Day tomato sauce. We add a few basil leaves for aroma. Can you smell? And color. And a generous sprinkle of Parmesan cheese. All right. And now let's see what we have wrought. A little pepper, a little salt. That's good. Okay. Now, if your dish doesn't come out exactly right, or even if it comes out terrible, well, remember, there is education in failure. Yes. So what can you do to improve it the next time? And you can enjoy your Italian meal. If you could not tell, yes, this is good. And if you can smell it, you'll know it's good. And I know it's good. And you can cook Italian, just like I did. If it doesn't work out the first time, okay, add a little pepper, add a little salt, add a little butter. That'll give it some flavor. And try again. Use your local ingredients, whatever you can get, put it together, and eat real food. Goodbye, and wishing you the very best of Italian eating. The biographical information about Gianluca was taken from his stage performance here at L.A., as well as his book, as well as some of his other appearances which have been posted on social media. I really like this guy. He's a fun guy. I appreciate his work. But the things I predict for the future that I attribute to him are, of course, my own creation. And these may or may not happen. His life events will very likely be somewhat different than those I proposed. And we had good fun doing this, just as he has good fun doing his stuff. So, if you want to buy his book, it's right now available on Amazon. So, as well as see his many postings on social media. But now, this is Hovey Smith, reminding you to hunt what you eat and eat what you hunt. Be legal, be ethical, be safe. Goodbye, God bless, and see you next time.